Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. So now guys, a lot of people often refer to the people who run the Nigerian state as the Buhari Cabal. This of course is a misnomer. The people who run the Nigerian state are not the Buhari Cabal, but the Nigerian cabal, because this cabal actually extends beyond the Buhari regime, and it is a clique of people who are shadowy. They are not actually shadowy. I keep saying they are shadowy. A lot of the names are known, but some of the names are not known. But really, it's a club of people who run the affairs of the Nigerian state, and they extend beyond the Buhari regime. So here now we have proof of this yet again. As guys, I bring you this. Abacha's son reveals current relationship with President Buhari and IBB families. So now this is now the cream of the top of the cabal now coming to admit their relationship. So again, the headline: Abacha's son reveals current relationship with President Buhari, IBB families. So now, before we get into the details of how this guy describes what is about to describe, I just want you to look again at the names in contention. So Abacha, Buhari, and IBB. So now look at Nigeria and look at these three names, and then think to yourself how long these three names have been just dipping into the Nigerian central bank and helping themselves all the way through. All of the coups that have taken place in Nigeria, especially the successful ones, the name Babangida has always been at the heart of it, or at least within the group of the inner caucus of the group that are responsible for that coup. Again, repeat the name Buhari, and then of course latterly Abacha, and add Obasanjo to the mix, then you begin to get a picture of who Nigeria actually truly belongs to. I talk about the club all the time, and you guys talk about the cabal all the time, but it is not actually the Buhari cabal that is the problem. The problem are the names that we're about to discuss here. So the headline one more time: Abacha's son reveals current relationship with President Buhari, IBB families. So now let's now see what details this guy is about to add to our understanding. One of the sons of Nigeria's late head of state, Sani Abacha, Sadiq, has disclosed how the families relate with President Muhammadu Buhari. Sadiq said his family relates fine with President Buhari's family. So now let's pause for a moment. So we're focusing first on this relationship that we've just read in these two paragraphs. So he is talking about his family's relationship with the Buhari family. So now let's examine that relationship. You will remember, of course, that Buhari was the chairman of the Petroleum Trust Fund during the Abacha regime, and when a lot of people were talking about how much Abacha looted from the Nigerian coffers, Buhari was the first to come out. This was prior to him becoming president. Buhari was one of the first to come out to say that Abacha never stole a penny from Nigeria. This was what he said, and this is on record, and this is recorded everywhere, so there's no denying it. So Buhari was one of the first people to say that, and he was one of the prominent voice, if not the premier voice, that came out to say that Abacha never stole a penny from Nigeria. So now fast forward now to when the Nigerian state is now recovering some of the Abacha loot, thanks to Obasanjo largely, who championed that move when he came into office. Now that the Nigerian state is now recovering some of the monies that Abacha looted, this guy now is not only re-looting the money won when it comes back to him. I don't know what happened under Goodluck Jonathan. He would have re-looted it as well. But also, what Buhari said recently actually struck me, as this guy still in the processes of covering up for Abacha. Actually, what Buhari said and what his Attorney General of the Federation, Malami, said. So what Buhari said was that Abacha would have stolen about $1 billion from the Nigerian state. This was what he said. So he tried to put a cap on the Abacha stealing. So he said recently, as recent as the last 3-4 weeks, that Abacha stole about $1 billion from the Nigerian state. So now this is a categorical obfuscation of the facts. This is a guy still trying to cover for this guy because Abacha stole well in excess of $1 billion from the Nigerian state. Abacha stole in double-digit billions from the Nigerian state. So we're talking 10 billion, 20 billion, etc. This is what Abacha stole. This was what Abacha stole. And we know this categorically because one of his sons came out to state that his family would never be as poor as Dangote. Now, Dangote's fortune is estimated at $9.5 billion. So if his family is never going to be as poor as Dangote, then they surely must have at least $1 billion more than Dangote. So we are already in the 10 billion region. So Buhari is categorically and factually wrong. And I say factually, but the first example I've cited is just a nuance from Abacha's son. But when I say he's factually wrong, the amount of money that has been recovered from the Abacha family since Obasanjo is actually closer to 2 billion than $1 billion. So the monies recovered is already twice. So the monies recovered is already twice what is being estimated by Buhari that Abacha stole. So you can see already that he's trying to cap it off to say, okay, we've taken enough from them, let them keep the rest. And the other angle is when Abubakar Malami, the Attorney General, the Minister of Justice, rather, yes, I think it's the Attorney General as well. The Minister of Justice, certainly, Abubakar Malami, was discussing the Abacha thing recently. He was referring to it as Abacha's asset rather than Abacha's loot. So if you are saying it is Abacha's asset, then it is something that is owned by Abacha. But of course, it is not Abacha's asset. It is Nigeria's asset stolen by Abacha. So you can see already that the cover-up has begun and they are trying to cap it off now to enable this family to keep the chunk of what they have stolen from the Nigerian state, because of course they are all stealing, so they don't really see why they should take his money back when they are keeping their own money. So I talk about the club and the cabal that runs the Nigerian state, and this is the heart of it. So let's carry on with what this Sadiq has to say. Speaking with BBC Hausa on Wednesday, the son of the late dictator said his family also relates well with that of ex-head of state Ibrahim Babangida, IBB. He also lamented that most of his father's friends abandoned them after his demise. According to Sadiq, we relate well with Babangida family. Our present relationship with some of our late father's friends is surprising. We exchange pleasantries with the family of Babangida. We are on good terms. It is only with members of the Babangida family that whenever we meet, we associate and share stories. We also relate well with the family members of President Buhari, but it is only with the Babangida family that we recall the past. So this is now a guy now that is stating the relationship between this trilogy especially. So you look at the Nigerian state and you really see who owns it. So Obasanjo was a military head of state and came back as a civilian head of state. Buhari, of course, was a military head of state. He has come back as a civilian head of state. Babangida ruled the Nigerian state for about 7-8 years, and Nigeria is only about 60 years. So between these two elements, or these three elements rather, or four elements even, who are we discussing? We're discussing Babangida, we're discussing Obasanjo, we're discussing Abacha, and we're discussing the Buhari family. So between these four elements is the Nigerian state, and they were only interrupted occasionally just in two instances. One when three instances actually, or two. One when Shagari came in, they let him serve 4 years and they got rid of him quickly and he got out of the way. And then of course when Yadwa / Goodluck Jonathan came in, and then between them they served about 8-9 years and then they got rid of them. So what's that? That's about 12 years out of the 60 odd years that the Nigerian state has existed. So 12 out of 60, you do the maths. The rest, of course, has been ruled solely by these these four elements, especially, I'm cutting off, of course, the independent years. I'm talking about from the Gowon days to date. So we're going Gowon, we're going Babangida, we're going Obasanjo, we're going Buhari, and we're going yes, have we mentioned Babangida? So Gowon, Obasanjo, Babangida, Buhari, and Abacha. So out of those five names is the Nigerian state, effectively. This is what you see, and they are passing it around. Remember how hard Babangida fought to come back in the build up to 2015, whatever. So he fought hard and then he gave up, but Buhari, of course, did not give up. He wanted to give up, actually, but the Tinubu group, they saw a window of opportunity, a window of weakness within the Goodluck Jonathan structure, and they thought that the sledgehammer, the juggernaut that they can use to force through that window of opportunity is Buhari, because they needed that name, because he resonates very well in the north, and Tinubu controls essentially the south, at least the Yoruba spaces, and they thought that between them they could rescue and wrestle, not so much rescue, but wrestle Nigeria out of the clutches of Goodluck Jonathan, and that was what happened. So these are the people really that Nigeria belong to, and then outside of these people you have just because you are talking about the premiership and then you are talking about the championship, so just at the relegation zone or on the top of the charts of the championship wanting to come into the Premier League are names like Tinubu, Atiku Abubakar, etc. These ones are noted for just outright stealing, but then of course they are all noted for outright stealing. So the people who own the Nigerian state are no more than 10-15 people, and you already know most of their names. Of course, these are names that have already been mentioned in the course of this video, and a lot of them you know already. So now this is the Nigerian state now, past the dollars. It's not so much past the parcel, but past the dollars is effectively what is taking place now. So a non-criminal is associating with the current government and the one that institutionalized corruption within the Nigerian state. So the palace of the Abacha family are the Buharis and the Babangidas. So who else would it be? He only needed to add Obasanjo's name to the mix, and then you know it's complete. But they don't like Obasanjo at the moment because he took some of their money away. So now this is now Nigeria, and this is essentially the cabal, and these names are the problems that the Nigerian state has contended with in perpetuity. So you have pretty much a recycling. This is really what goes on. So one comes in, stays for a while, steals as much as it can, and then passes it on to the next person. So now Tinubu is now the one now that is now trying to come into that club, but we did let him in. 2023 will be the determinant. Conversations in the comment section. The cabal are jollying amongst themselves. What says you? Come share thoughts. Do you have a name that you think should be added to the cabal? Come list them in the comment section. But before you do that, click on the red subscribe button so it turns gray. The bell button notifies you every time I drop a new video. Then come tell me now who you think should also be a member of the cabal, the people who actually own the Nigerian state. Come tell me about that in the comment section. So I'll leave you here. Carry this conversation on with you in the comment section. But here I say peace.